My guest this week is Alex Curtis, founder and owner of The Lead Engine. Welcome to the Mortgage Broker Broadcast with me, Craig Skelton. Join me every week while we're developing your knowledge to help you build a successful mortgage broker business. My guest this week is Alex Curtis, owner and founder of The Lead Engine, and we're going to be getting back to basics on digital marketing and focusing really on lead generation. So welcome to the podcast, Alex. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Good. No, thank you. The digital marketing podcasting legend that you are. I appreciate you taking time out to be on the Mortgage Broker Broadcast podcast. So I really do appreciate that, and I'm loving the sort of the growth on the twirl on the tash and the beard going on at the moment.
Yeah, I would love to say that is intentional. You're not the only person to say that. The other person to say that was part of the Open Work network. So I don't know if you guys have got something. No, do you know what? Before lockdown, I used to have a barber that actually worked on the beard. This is it's just grown, and I have a
growth.
Yeah, that is and it is just somehow. I do feel like I'm in, I don't know what, the 40s or something like that, or like proper vintage.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for you to. I think if you've got like a trailing scarf behind your back and a set of goggles on, then and you've just got out of your Spitfire. I think it's sort of like that kind of sort of image going on, sort of thing. So so I will stop commenting on your personal. It's not the way to introduce you onto a podcast and commenting on your. It was just a conversational thing with regards to the beard in your image, shall we say? So thank you very much for those people that are sort of very rude and don't know who you are and your sort of bit of background. Do you want to just explain who is Alex Curtis and a little bit about the Lead Engine?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've worked in financial services marketing for like forever, really. So essentially, I started when I was at uni. I actually did my degree in film production. Started working with an agency like part time when I was there, and we worked with just like local businesses. We started doing some stuff with some mortgage brokers, financially, just doing their website bits and pieces. And then worked for an agency. We did some work with a payday loan lender. We helped them launch their online pawnbroker and started working with the FCA that way. And that kind of just led me into, when I left them and did my own thing, doing consultancy for digital marketing, just seemed to pick up financial services, businesses like pensions, and was working in a company that did the annuity comparisons and things like that before the pension changes. I can't remember what year it was. But then I just kind of got not stuck because I love it, but I just fell into the financial services marketing world and sort of just, that's all we do now. And then to our agency, The Lead Engine, we just work with financial advice firms on helping them generate as many leads as possible rather than buying them in. So we work on their like websites and everything to get people coming to them and cutting out that middleman that's putting a margin on a lead, if you like.
Yeah, which we see. We all sort of see those firms and stuff like that, and I have this sort of same. It's no surprise we do work together. You do work. We are a client of yours, and you do sort of great stuff in terms of the website and everything that you do with like every aspect of our marketing, be it website or pay, like actual print and things like that. So I think it goes back to your point there, is that there's more and more advisors now realizing that it's about their brand and building their own brand rather than somebody else's by buying leads. And that's technically all that you're doing, is you're feeding another website to be top of Google or having the Google ads out there or doing whatever they're doing to them. You're just feeding that machine because you're buying that lead. You're feeding that machine, aren't you, rather than feeding your own?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of like, I don't think enough people. So I wouldn't recommend buying leads, and we're obviously dead against it. And we're set up to be a complete alternative. But if you are, and if you do, just follow that journey. If someone's offering to sell leads, it sounds like a great deal, you want to try it, just put yourself in your prospect's shoes and look at their website and just see whether they are like trying to trick someone in, because a lot of them do like these fake calculators and stuff. Just don't be part of that machine. Don't be part of the machine where people are being misled, because
Right.
it's at the end of the day, they've gone through some, if they've gone some website saying, oh, get a mortgage quote or an equity release quote online, and it isn't online, they're selling the phone number to you. You are definitely part of the problem if you're buying them, I think. So I don't think enough people look at what happens of how those leads are generated. And I think there's no better pillow at night than a clear conscience. If you're happy that is not tricking anyone, or it's not, it does what it says on the tin, then I think that's fine. And if that is profitable and it works for you, the lead generator and the person that wants your advice, and that is all, a nice journey and no one's being tricked or anything, then I'm cool with it. But it's the ones where it's not good that I'm not a fan of.
Basically, what you're saying is it's okay, but just do a bit of research before, just to understand the customer's journey and the experience before you pick up the phone and say, "Hi, it's so and so from so and so," and then you get put the phone down or whatever. Or if you do manage to speak to them, then an ideal. So
absolutely. But it is more profitable to be on Google when someone searches for a mortgage broker, and you don't have to pay anything for the click, and they come to your website and they want to speak to you specifically and no one else. I mean, there's a much better alternative, but it's one of those things that there's cowboys in our industry, and it's really confusing in our industry. So I can see why people do buy leads, definitely, because it's more effort to do it yourself, isn't it?
It is. I think, like you said, I think it can be sometimes down to the false promises again that these people make, in terms of, because there are lots of people I'd say a dozen emails a day, generally overnight, and I hear them in the morning saying, we can get you ranked Google, like first on Google and things like that, and you've got no relationship with them, there's no trust there, there's no nothing. So there's a lot of firms out there that do overpromise and underdeliver, shall we say. There's a lot of firms out there, because at the end of the day, they're selling their business, they're selling what they do and how they work. So I get that. But I think that's the big thing. There's a lot of overpromising and under-delivering with that. And I think what sort of interesting things like that you do, like in terms of firms that you work with, whether that's sort of like, well, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but like in terms of the firms you actually work with, you ask them, you get them to make calls to have a chat with people that work with you already, or already clients. So what better way to understand the core values of that business and how they work than talking to their clients, which you're not going to be able to do that with a lead generation site or anything like that. You're not going to be able to have that conversation. Whereas with the likes of yourself, like you do promote the fact that if you want to work with us, then that's to speak to our clients and see what we do for them, kind of thing, which is, there's no better way to do it. Like rather than actually getting, can you get reviews yourself? I don't know if you can actually get that as a business. Can you collect reviews?
Yeah,
can you do that?
Can. Well, the thing is, right, now that people know that we work together, I will get a lot of grief. It's like, why is Craig on page one and I'm not? So we don't normally get reviews. And then I think the mortgage mum put out a thing saying about a new website, and she shot onto page one like much quicker than expected. I get a load of grief for it. So we normally like to keep it quiet. So it is difficult, but then it is. And normally it is more of, actually, we are trying to. The thing about the SEO side is it is unpredictable, in terms that some people can get their website to rank quicker than others, and some rank locally really well and others don't. And then sometimes there's stuff like you do, because you've got your own podcast. What we're finding, that clients that have their own podcast and are creating a lot of content themselves perform better than those that don't. So there is an element of, actually, when we get someone to speak to you, I try and actually do it in a way to actually set the expectations properly, because sometimes like our name is a curse, like the lead engine. People think, "Oh, we've got the website live, that it's going to be flooded with leads on day one." So I actually try and do the opposite of like, no, it's like this is, I do a timeline in our SLA. But the problem is they sort of forget about it by the time the site goes live, and you have these calls and be like, well, and then like sometimes on sales calls as well, they're kind of like, well, I'm hiring these advisors in the future. I don't want this website. I don't want to be overrun with leads. And I'm kind of like, well, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah. We just select how many visits you're going to get this week and how many
I wish.
how many inquiries you're going to get and things like that.
Yeah, it's hard to set expectations because as you know, the most profitable lead is one that they've searched on Google, they want advice, they've hit your website, and they've asked for you to call them back, or they've called you directly. And then there's no pay per click in there. There's nothing. You've earned the right to be there. So there's no extra, and that's literally the most profitable lead. But it's not one that you can get on day one. You've got to work towards it, and there's stuff that you have done. If you buy a brand new domain from a shop tomorrow that's never been used before, it's not going to have any history on it. It's not going to have, from Google's point of view, they want to show the most relevant web page from a trusted source. And there's stuff that you'd been around for quite a while. Your website had been around quite a while before we worked with you. So you were already sort of marginally trusted already. So it was quicker than dealing with someone brand new, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But it goes back to the conversation that I always have about with anybody that's looking to become a self-employed broker and building their own brand and things like that. It's all about patience, because like you've got to have the patience to. You're not going to be number one overnight. You're not going to be, and I think, and we'll probably talk a little about this, but I'm very much a person of responsibility. I don't look at other people and go, how come you've got them there and I'm not there and things like that. I just worry about myself, because that's the only person I can worry about, and that's the only thing I can control and have influence on and so forth. So I'm not sat there thinking, well, they're ranking better than me or they're doing with that. It's just about what's working for you and what's right for you. But going back to that, you've got to have patience of doing anything you're doing with digital marketing, whether it is website, Insta, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever platforms you're using, and all of them, you've got to have patience with everyone. Like you put a Facebook ad on or a boost, then you're not going to instantly get hits and it's going to get inquiries straight away. It's going to take a little bit of time to build that trust up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember how we first met. It was I think I was just liking your stuff on LinkedIn, if I remember, and I never DM'd you or anything. And I remember you sending me a message about 6 months later, just saying, "Oh, I get these messages all the time trying to sell me something. You've never tried to sell me something once, so do you want to have a chat?" And then we had a call. And then I think you were one of the few people that came to the office as well. We got this nice new office and this meeting room. No one ever came apart from you, I think. But that was, it wasn't like I didn't run an ad to you and you click that ad and call me. It was, that took time, and people listen to our podcast for 2 years and then they get in touch. You can't just, it is about trust, isn't it? And you can't just. It is.
I think that's the thing is. Well, you can't, can you? Like, it's not everything that we do as a business. Everything I do is wrapped around trust. It's like very much, I'm a trusted person in terms of that. I trust people until people give me a reason not to trust them. Excuse me. So I'm more on that way of thinking rather than some people are more of, I'll not trust you and you've got to prove to me that you can be trusted, kind of thing, which is like I say, when you're looking at things like mortgages and getting leads and things like that, they've got to see you and build that trust up with you over a period of time, because they're not going to ramming down the throat of the 95% deals that this is the best deal and this is the best deal and this is the rate. Yes, you might get the odd one, but you're not building any. Everybody's doing that. Everybody's doing the same thing. There's no trust built up on that, is there?
No. I think sometimes with mortgages, slightly different from what we do, because people always need financial advice firms always need leads, always want leads, whereas a mortgage is something that's maybe they need to do once for a certain. There's a window, isn't there, of needing it. But if you've got stuff they can binge on, like a YouTube channel or a podcast or something, because I'll say to. I think I probably said to you and other people that have got a mortgage podcast, and you're probably not going to build up subscribers. You'll probably get bingers they'll need want to speak to a broker, and they'll literally listen to your episodes back to back, and then you've built that up over a lot of trust over a small amount of time because you've got so much content for them to get to know you. I think that's probably what you find on your podcast, that whether it's like someone wanting pension advice or the mortgage stuff, they'll go on iTunes and look at those ones and binge through them, because they're not going to necessarily listen to it after they've completed or too early or whatever. But I think it's still the same. Like the more you have there that's educational, trying to help people, and like actually not trying to sell anything. It's the best way to actually sell something, I find. You just build that rapport, and then you just kind of like build that trust up. But you've got to, I suppose it's daunting thinking, how much, I need to create 100 videos or whatever. You just do it over time, don't you? You've just got to get in that habit of doing it. Because you started with 0 episodes. Now, what have you got on your podcast? You got a ridiculous amount.
50, nothing like yours. I think I was just looking at yours. I think in 161 yours is that now. So I've got quite a way to catch up. But on the mortgages, money and more, I think we just done episode 50. So I think we're sort of 51, 52 now. So just been running over a year. So, but yeah, I think it's funny you say that, because I think like the reason I do a podcast, you've got a helping hand along with that, because we started to work together, and I think I was a guest on your podcast, and so was Mark Thompson on the equity release stuff. He was a guest on your podcast. Lisa was on the remortgage stuff as well. So I think it's your fault, Alex, that I'm doing this now, like this one, and I've got 2 podcasts going on, the rest of it. But if you'd have said to me, like, sort of over 12 months ago, "Oh, you're going to have a podcast channel?" Like, well, no, I haven't got time for that. Why would I want to be doing that? But I think it's absolutely right. You're just building up about who you are and the brand, and gaining that trust, because you tend to find that I am shocked, and that I have a conversation with someone like Tessa, who's in your team, who runs our podcast channel, and the conversation I have with Tessa is I'm just surprised on how many people actually listen to podcasts and the download. I'm shocked by it. I never thought anybody would actually ever listen. I was just doing it from a SEO on your sort of advice and recommendation, and on SEO content and that a content point of view. And now when you sort of getting the numbers, thinking, wow, like people actually do listen. I think, but then, so it's about that, like say the small window, because mortgages, people buying and selling houses, as you and I both know, as we're both going through that process currently at various stages, which we're not going to talk about. It's a stressful thing. So once you've done it, the last thing you want to do is, when you moved in that house, is think, I want to listen to a podcast about mortgages now. Or you're never going to do that. It's going to be, my deal's coming up in 18 months' time or whatever the case may be, and I might start to pick stuff up from that. So it's just about getting the content out there, which will help. But going back to my point was about taking people out of the comfort zone. I think that's something that I try and do particularly with brand and marketing, like digital marketing, is trying to get people out of the comfort zone of doing videos, doing the YouTube stuff, being on a podcast, doing whatever it can do, because it's always I always talk about, you get that sort of circle. I'm not going to go into too much technical detail, but as a mortgage broker, like 4.5 years ago, my understanding of running a mortgage broker firm and like that was pretty minimal. I didn't know. I got an idea, but I didn't know what I was doing. And slowly but surely, like, you build that circle, and then you've sort of right, I know what I'm doing now, and that circle's built. And then I need to step out of that circle now and move it to the next level and level. And that's, you've got to continually do that as a mortgage broker, because the world of mortgage broking is adapting and changing with the way the world and society and stuff like that. So you've then got to, like, I talked about that with the quite a few brokers recently. Okay, well, you've got a comfort zone now of being a mortgage broker. You've been doing a mortgage broker now for 2 years, 18 months, however it is. You feel comfortable doing that. Well, now is the time to step out of that comfort zone and think, right, what can I do? Is it a TikTok video? Is it a short on LinkedIn? Is it a YouTube channel, or just doing videos and things like that? Because it's then you're then growing your own sort of knowledge and keeping it fresh, and not just getting sort of bogged down with the day-to-day mortgage broking, which is fine because that makes you money and that's what you do. But then sometimes it's difficult to think, I just haven't got the time. I don't know what to do content-wise and things like that. But when you actually I think once you've done it once, you just can't stop then. I think that's what the funny thing that I find is once you've got out of it doing one thing, oh yeah, we need to do another podcast. I'm going to do another video. Is that the same for the firms and the brokers that you work with?
Yeah, it's funny. Some of them don't want to do it. And then you probably get Tessa on to talk about the when someone has been really hesitant to do it, and then how they feel after they've done their first one. And then
That's a good idea.
I'll come right back to the beginning where you were saying about when we did the podcast with you originally, and you were thinking, oh, no one's going to listen to a podcast, and you were surprised by the numbers. The way I think people think of a podcast is that people go to iTunes or Spotify and listen. But and then also nobody goes to your website thinking, oh, I'm looking for a podcast. They go in. So if we take the one we did with Mark was, I think it was an equity release one. It was like they've got an interest-only mortgage expiring and they don't know what to do. And I remember him saying as well, like some people didn't realize they weren't paying off like the equity, right? So you've got someone who has got their interest-only mortgage expiring. So they've gone onto Google and they've searched interest-only mortgage expiring options, or my interest-only mortgage is expiring, what can I do? Something like that. And then they've found on Google a answer to that, and let's say it's CS Retirement Solutions or CS Mortgage Solutions, whatever, and it's got a page talking about interest-only mortgage expiring, and it just happens to have a podcast player at the top, and it's a 10-minute audio clip. And then there's a whole load of content, because you need a whole load of content to rank, and it's much easier as a human to stick your headphones in and listen to 10 minutes than read it, because a lot of people can't be bothered. They'll skim it or whatever. There may be some people skim it, some people read it. But if I just got a letter from NatWest, there are other banks are available, saying, oh, you've got to pay 40 grand next week. Not that they would, but you've got 40 grand to pay off. Your interest-only mortgage is expired. We're going to take your house, whatever. I think I'd probably commit 10 minutes to listen to an audio clip of someone telling me what my options are. So that's what I mean about people not like subscribing. And then also, it's not just one person searching for interest-only mortgage expiring, it's thousands every month. If you can rank for the solution to a problem, and the great thing about mortgages, there's so many ridiculous, like people search teacher mortgages, they search police mortgages, they search non-standard construction mortgages, they search Japanese knotweed mortgages. There's so much stuff that people search, and there's 7.5 million searches on Google every month, like around mortgages.
What?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Wow. Yeah. So it's one every 3 seconds, something like that, or I've got the stats somewhere. And there are 300,000 different things that they search for. So you've got 7 million searches and 300,000 different things that they search for. Because there's so many questions. So if you can rank on Google, you're constantly getting people hit your website, and you've got the answer to the problem that they've got, and they can listen to your advisor, get to know your advisor. If you don't pitch anything on that, you're going to build that rapport and trust. And then that episode that you did 3 years ago is still going to get downloads because it's evergreen content.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The way the sort of the Google algorithm's working at the minute is the time spent on site and time spent on page helps that page rank better. So if someone's coming to your site and spending 10 minutes on it, listening to a podcast, Google's like, wow, this page is obviously very good because loads of people are spending 10 minutes on it. This is crazy. This is great content. So you almost like solidify your place on page one because of that content. And then sometimes that 10 minutes is enough to build that rapport. But then don't stick all your eggs in one basket. What are all the other problems people have? And you create the answers to it. It's kind of as simple as that. You just got to do it.
I think that's it. Like you say, it is. No, it does. It makes total sense. I think that just really clarifies in terms of people not, like you said, people's minds of podcast is, okay, well, I'm going to go onto iTunes, Spotify, or wherever I get my podcasts, and then just look on that and think that's where I'm gonna just listen to that one. Well, it's not. It's about, like you say, it's about the Google and how that helps with rankings and everything else. So you've got to see the bigger picture with it, not just the actual, I've got to record a podcast and that's what I'm looking to do. So and that's a good idea about Tessa. I never thought about the asking Tessa to go onto the podcast, and because obviously she is the podcast expert as well. So and she's got her own podcast as well, hasn't she? So
she's into country and western music. So
which
is it's all about that sort of jazz. It is good. But I think when you get your head around that concept that whether it's a podcast or a video, it's Q&A, whatever it is, it's you're helping provide the answer to a problem that people have got.
Going back to that's testament in terms of how you and I got to work together. It was around that sort of just Q&A. That's all it was. There was no pitching or anything like that, because people don't want to be sold to, and it's the same with clients for mortgages. They just want to know the answers and knowing what sort of, if they get that answer from somebody locally that's got it doesn't, like, I'm sort of big believer in the video stuff. I'm big believer in the sort of the quick. I was with a few advisors the other day, and they were sort of saying, "Oh, we just struggle. What do we talk about on a video? What do we talk about?" And I just sat there away from the meeting before the meeting, and I just sat there and thought, right, let me just think about what a mortgage broker could talk about, how many different topics a mortgage broker could talk about for a minute, 2 minutes tops on just doing a video. And I came up with 100. Like, I think I stopped after 100. I think I got to 100. I thought I think I've got enough there, because if I do one a week, I've got 2 years worth of content right there. So it's like, I think there's plenty enough to go to be going on that. But I think people, I say, it just helps with everything that they do around the whole building trust and building rapport and stuff like that. So we've gone straight into the podcast, and we've covered loads of things already without even sort of doing any, like we talked about an agenda and what we're going to talk about and stuff like that, but we've just gone straight in, which is fine, absolutely fine. So that's
what I'm used to. I think people listen to ours and they have no idea what's going on. I just start talking nonsense.
Well, I think that's the beauty. What I like about your podcast, because we haven't come on this podcast to give it a plug, but I do listen to the Advisors Assemble. I do listen to it every single week, and whether that's it's not. I don't go onto Google and search equity release leads, and your podcast comes up. I just subscribe to your podcast and listen to it. But I think, like I say, that's a great source of information. Again, that you're not selling. You and Tom are great on there, but it's very relaxed, informal, very friendly. I can hear you tapping away on your keyboard, searching Google as you're talking to each other. And it's just absolutely brilliant. It just reminds me a little bit of the I do some podcasts sometimes with Jason Murgatroyd in the firm, so the Mortgage is Money and More podcast, Jason and I do. And some people have liked that to the now I'm going to get this totally wrong, but the two fishermen talk, so Bob Mortimer and the other guy who I can't remember. Pardon?
Was it
it was the guy who was with Bob. They're fishing anyway. So the two guys are fishing, and they're just talking absolute nonsense or whatever comes in their head. And that's what. But like, the thing is, the beauty of that is that when I'm sat in the car listening to your podcast or driving or whatever I'm doing, and then listen to it, I just feel as though I'm part of that conversation, and just feel I'm not being sold to. It's very, like, you clearly know what you're doing, and then but it's raw at the same time in terms of, like, can we do this? And I've learned so much about sort of the branding and stuff like that over I listen to the podcast every single week, and this week equity release leads, we do equity release to firm. Equity release leads is something we generate and we want to be doing, and so like things that you're talking about makes total sense. It's sort of, and it does generally, contrary to people's comments, it is generally quite good every single week.
Generally quite good.
That's about as good. Can I put that on a review? 5-star Google.
Yeah, it's generally quite good.
Generally quite good.
If you
were, some ones I'd kind of miss, but generally it's quite good. Yeah. I think as far as I can say, I think that's quite a compliment from my point of view. That Alex, I think it's sort of like, I think that's quite a good.
I appreciate that,
because that sort of thing. It's still a 5-star. I'm not going to go out there and go, it's generally quite good and give you a 4-star and then get down the rankings like we get from time to time. The advice was amazing, blah, blah, they did everything, 4 stars. Like, 4 stars, what? Yeah. Why would you do that?
Didn't get me a £1 million mortgage, so wouldn't get 5.
Yeah, exactly. And 10,000 a year.
With the podcast and not selling is completely intentional. And I don't think I've ever sold or tried to sell anything. I think the only thing we've sold on the podcast is like event tickets when we've done conferences. But and one of the things why it's called Advisors Assemble and why I've got this obsession with Batman and superheroes,
which we are going to come on to. We do need to get that involved in that.
I'm shoehorning it in.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to sell the bit. We're not going to sell the podcast, but we're going to shoehorn in Batman and my obsession with superheroes. Yeah.
So whenever you watch Marvel, you think of me and then call me up. Yeah, that's exactly subliminal. Is because superheroes don't ever ask for anything in return. And then there's Batman Begins. I watched that for the millionth time at the right time, because there was so many things in there that made so much sense for me. And that one, it's right at the end. And Commissioner Gordon says to Batman, he says, I never said thank you. And he says, you'll never have to. And he's like, he doesn't do it for any other reason than to help people. And if you can do that, the minute you start putting content out there and thinking, oh, I'm going to say this because it'll get me more, or I'll get more sales, or you start thinking about you, it like just doesn't work. I think there's the stuff going on in your brain that you can't control. If you do things for the wrong intentions, it will come across in the wrong way. I think you have to, and we have to do the podcast, and like you doing yours and people creating their content. If they do it from a place where, if I can help someone, whether I never speak to them, if someone's listened to our podcast and then has grown their firm like ridiculously, that doesn't have to work again, sold it for X million from stuff they've learned from us, and I've never spoke to them, then that's amazing. I'm quite happy with that. If I start thinking, oh, I'm doing this podcast because I want to get as many leads as possible, it will start getting a bit salesy, and we'll start saying stuff to try and get people to call, and people will just start cringing, I think. I think you've got to, with that content, whether you do podcasts, YouTube or whatever, I just think, like, don't put like a jazzy intro on the front with your logo because you want to, that's about you. It's not about, like, go straight into the content because that's what the person's looking for. I think you've always got to think about your prospects and what they want, and what you want is irrelevant, but you have to have faith that does work. So it's kind of doesn't make any sense. It sounds really naive, but if you do that, then that's what makes people pick up the phone, I believe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think you can hear that there's certain things where you can see people start off with the right intentions of, oh yeah, I'm giving information, but then when the leads don't come in, they quickly then start thinking, right, we're getting no leads, so I'm going to still do the same, but I'm going to add this bit at the end, and then I'm going to start with this now, and then I'm going to do this and this and this. So then you're absolutely right. It is about the information more than anything else, and just not staying away from that.
Yeah. When I run ads for us as well, I advertise our podcast content. I don't advertise that you could get to the top of Google for this. It's like I'm advertising how you can do it yourself. And if you want to ring me, that's fine. I always advertise that content. And then if that means that someone will call me in 3 years' time, then fine. It sounds ridiculous. When I say it out loud, I think people must think you're an idiot, mate. You are it. But it just works. It works. But
No,
it
it
is
does.
like absolute leap of faith, though. It is a funny thing to be able to get your head around.
It is, I think, but once you've got your head around it, it's sort of like there's two things that like 2 points that like one is that when I had an advisor, she first started out, she was an experienced advisor, started to put on social media. And she said, I'm getting loads of questions, people asking me loads of things, but I'm not getting any sign-ups on it. They've not got a mortgage need right now. When that's fantastic. Well done, well done. That is absolutely brilliant. They're actually reaching out to you as the mortgage expert. You're answering the questions, because then when they need that mortgage in a year, 6 months, 2 years, 5 years time, you're going to be the person that they remember, and that because you've helped them out, and they're more likely to pick the phone up to you to speak to you because you've answered the questions. It's the same as that sort of thing is, because I do totally agree with you, because like things like, and this podcast is not about plugging, but I run up like the YouTube channel. I've got shorts on there about helping like all the questions that mortgage brokers generally ask. I like work with a lot of inexperienced advisors and help them talk to them. And even if they're not part of the firm, I still sort of help and talk to them. And so I release loads of like videos of just little snippets of things, of questions they would generally ask. And so I get comments from that. Like, they haven't come to work with the firm. They haven't sort of come to work with me or anything like that. But they've messaged me, took the time to message me and saying, thanks, Craig. I was worried about going self-employed. Moving from employed to self-employed. You've answered all my questions. Really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. And that for me, that's not about getting somebody else into the firm or getting somebody else to work with. That puts a smile on my face, because actually it's a good thing. Like, that's good. That is good, because they'll remember you. And if it doesn't work out with that firm, and if they do something and think, do you know what, I am going to do this, and I think actually I would want to speak to Craig and I could work with Craig, then that might never happen, but it could happen in the future. Well, that's great. If you've got all these people, all these customers, and like out there from an advice, like a broker point of view, where you've spoken to all these people, and all these people are out there in wherever, and they know who you are, and you've answered questions, and then they're down the pub or they're talking to friends, and they're sort of saying, oh, I'm struggling with my mortgage broker, they're not getting back to me. They're like, oh, this one on, have you not seen that one on Facebook? Oh, this is it here, this one here, like, yeah, this one. And that's the thing, is that's what you're trying to build, not just a quick hit of, I'm not getting the leads, I'm not that. So I totally agree with that, Alex, on that's, you've got to try and, which is very difficult, like you said, you've got to try and have that sort of mentality and outlook, really.
Yeah. And then I think the irony is sometimes it will get quick ones as well. You will, by doing that, not trying to get quick ones. Well, sometimes, because some people do have that immediate need, or someone like a broker's messed them around, or the bank have messed them around, or they can't get the appointment with the bank, and they'll, like I said earlier about binging that content, they'll go in, they'll binge it. You've like really helped them, made them feel comfortable, and you're the one they want to speak to. So you can get those quick ones, but if you try to get the quick ones, you won't. If it doesn't kind of make sense, or you won't get as many. Or as many good ones that really value your advice. Get those rate hunters that only see you as a computer. I think most brokers would have thought listening will want the people that value their advice and want to pay a broker fee, not the ones that just come into you just for a rate. Because otherwise, they might as well compare the market or an online thing or something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's it. All brokers can relate to the fact that when we get client like calls coming in, and it's like, well, how much do you charge? Okay, would you want me to explain what I do and how I'm going to do it first of all, or well, no, I just want to know how much you charge. It's like, well, just walk away from that. Like, thank you very much, but I'm not the most expensive. I'm not doing it for free. I'm not the cheapest. So if all you're bothered about is you're not bothered about the service and everything else, and anything else I'm going to do for you, then fine. I can recommend these other ones that maybe won't deliver the same service and make it personal and things like that maybe won't charge you as much. Because I think, and sometimes with those people, you speak to any experienced broker, those are the people who are the worst ones. When they just sort of go, oh, do you know what? I need some business right now. I'll do it for free, or I might do it for 99 quid or whatever. they are the worst clients that ring you all the time. They're never happy with the service, will never give you a 5-star service because nothing is ever good enough unless you was living with them 24/7, working on their case. That is not enough, kind of thing. So it's about building your own brand and who you are and generating your own leads. Somebody that's coming to you, when you're talking about a fee, the fees are relevant because they know who you are, they know what service you can provide, they do trust you, and then you're sort of, there's no real haggling or negotiating over the fee because, well, that's not what it's about. It's about the service you're going to provide, and then knowing that somebody in this world who's going to help and guide you through one of the most stressful things you'll ever do in your life, and probably very few times in your life. Well, why wouldn't you want, for the sake of a few £100 in the process, why would you not want to be working with somebody that specializes in these sorts of things? That's exactly what you would want to alleviate some of the stress and hold your hand through the whole process.
Absolutely. And then I think when you build your brand and you're getting enough leads or more leads than you need or plenty that you can grow, then it's easy to say no, isn't it? It's sort of when you're struggling and scrapping around, that's when you sort of cling on to those ones you probably know in your gut are not right, but you need the business because you haven't, so that's one of the benefits of building your brand, doing your own marketing, being in control of what leads are coming in so that you can just say no to those ones that are just going to be a waste of time for you or not right for you.
Yeah, definitely. Or just put your fee up, and that's what
$9 million, 400% of the house price.
Yeah, but that's what I know quite a few trade people, and that's what they tend to do. I didn't want the job, so I doubled my fee, and I still got the job. And why are you complaining?
It wasn't worth double. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Is like it's the same thing. Like mortgage brokers, the money they like the housing market is good. Brokers are busy. There are new brokers coming into it that are desperate to get business and stuff like that. So there is fees is always something that does come up. But like I say, if you've generated the leads yourself, then it's definitely you're more likely to win it than not win it. And it does convert better. Like without a doubt, a self-generated lead will always convert better and pay more broker fee than it would if you bought it in and done it that way, definitely. Because like I said, they're just bothered about the rate. That's all they're bothered about.
Exactly.
Alex, we've sort of gone on for... I listen to your podcast and I'm like thinking now, you always end the podcast going, Tom, we've been going on about this for 40 odd minutes. And I think it is exactly that. We've been going on now sort of for just short of 4 minutes about lead generation. And to be fair, Alex, I really do appreciate your time. And it was exactly what I expected because we planned it. We were going to talk about lead generation. We're going to talk about various things. And instantly, within the first sentence, we've gone off point, but very relevant to what mortgage brokers are thinking, where their heads at. And we've talked a lot about brand, trust, content, video, podcasting, all those other things, and why it's important and why I do it. So even though we have gone way off on a tangent, it's been valuable for me, and I'm valuable for the people that subscribe to this and listen to this. So I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about? Anything we've missed off? I know we haven't even talked about, we've had a little snippet of Batman and sort of the Batman Begins at the end, so I'll have to put some copyright on there. I think I've got to put some copyright on the quote or something like that. So anything we've not talked about?
No, I think if you do everything with the right intentions, then all the other stuff is tactics. It's all tactical. You need to get that thing right first, where it's you're trying to help as many people as possible, whether you benefit from it or not. I think whatever you do, and if you do it consistently with that mindset, then you'll do well.
Fantastic. We will end on that poignant comment at the end. So thank you very much for that. Alex, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being a guest, your honest opinion in terms of what we've talked about today. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Really appreciate it.